So let's bring in former sheriff of Milwaukee, David Clark, as well as retired U.S. military intelligence officer Steve Rogers, and we also have Melanie back as well. Sheriff Clark, the influencer now facing charges of inciting a riot. What are your thoughts on what happened here in Manhattan?
Well, first of all, with celebrity comes great responsibility. This guy should have known better. That was reckless conduct to pull a stunt like that. And he should also have to foot the bill for all of the police service that was required to maintain law and order and keep the peace at that mob scene, that flash mob scene.
Yeah, it's incredible. Steve, meantime, we're not focusing on murders. We're not trying to cut down on this crime. You look at Chicago, what's going on there. The mayor is more concerned about using the proper terminology when it comes to these crimes. Let's listen to this soundbite real quick.
That's not appropriate. We're not talking about mob actions. I didn't say that. Hold on a second, okay? Respectfully. These large gatherings, just hold on a second, y'all. I promise you, we have time to talk. It's important that we speak of these dynamics in an appropriate way.
I mean, Steve, are we not splitting hairs? We call it what it is. I mean, the crime is out of control, and he's worried about how we're approaching it or how we're talking about it.
Well, look, the sheriff used a very good 2 words to identify what's going on here: reckless conduct. Well, the reckless conduct also is at the feet of these politicians, the mayor of Chicago, the mayor of New York City, and let's go on and on and on across the country in these blue cities who, by the way, are turning the color of their streets red blood because of their reckless conduct. Their policies are bad. The bail reform and other war policies are emboldening people like what you saw in New York City take place to do what they're doing. Why? Because they actually believe they're going to get away with crimes, and they are.
Yeah, Melanie, this has been something we've been seeing here in New York, but again, Chicago's bad, San Francisco's bad. What is the solution here? Do we need to enforce the laws we already have?
We need to enforce the laws we already have, and as Sheriff Clark suggested, there needs to be consequences. There is a pervasive sense of a lack of consequences among young people in the public schools, and then when they get out of schools, this is how they act. There are no consequences. And the politicians, especially this mayor in Chicago, he also said in that soundbite, let's not treat them like they're a bunch of baby Al Capones. Well, you know what? If your behavior is adult destructive behavior, if you're acting like a baby Al Capone, then Al Capone it is. Until we need to stop coddling these kids, these young people, and start issuing some consequences. It will put it to a stop.
Sheriff, what would be the morale for, let's say, for law enforcement? How do they get involved in this? If they know that they're going to charge these people or arrest these people, but they never face any of the consequences, what does that do to the department?
Yeah, they're not all singing on the same sheet of music like they were during the great crime decline of the 1990s and early 2000s, Project Safe Neighborhood. You had everybody singing off the same sheet of music. You had the U.S. attorney involved, the state prosecutors, everybody got charged. Standalone gun charges went to the U.S. attorney's office for federal prosecution. There was certainty in criminal prosecution, and you just don't have that going on right now. So what you end up with is these law enforcement officers are basically engaged in a quiet resignation because they know their work is going to be undone as soon as they do it.
Steve, what should a city like in New York do with this situation? And do we need more law enforcement? We're seeing things on the subways. We're seeing people smash and grab stores. What needs to happen in a city like New York, Chicago?
Look, I live 15 minutes from the city, and I'm in contact with New York City cops just about every day. We got to get back to quality of life policing. That's how you prevent bigger crimes. You got to give cops the ability and the authority to go out and do their job. I've always believed that stop, question, and frisk was a major, major element in reducing crime. They need to be given the tools they need to do their job, and they'll do it well. NYPD, the best by far police department in the country, let alone the world. And I'll tell you, give them the tools they need, they'll do their job. And Make sure that when they make an arrest, the criminals are not let loose in an hour by woke DAs. Make sure that these criminals are put in jail where they belong.
Melanie, you've got the last word before we go.
The thing that maddens me the most about this is that these laws were supposedly put in place to help people who look like me, neighborhoods with people who look like me. And instead, it is damaging those people. They are victims of crime constantly. It is not helping, it's hurting, and there needs to be a consequence.
I completely agree. Sheriff David Clark, appreciate your time. Steve Rogers, thank you so much for sticking around here too. Melanie, you're staying with us as well. We got another segment with you.